stunt coordinator held the storyboard, pointing to the carefully drawn sequence showing exactly how the fight scene should unfold. Jackie Chan looked at it for 30 seconds, nodded politely, then set it aside. "Let me try something," he said, and walked onto the set. A marketplace full of props, vendors' stalls, hanging baskets, bicycles, crates of vegetables. For the next 20 minutes, Jackie moved through the space, testing objects, trying movements, picking up an umbrella and spinning it, grabbing a bicycle and riding it in circles, knocking over a basket of cabbages to see how they'd scatter. The stunt coordinator watched, confused, waiting for Jackie to start rehearsing the planned sequence. Finally, Jackie turned to him and said, "Forget the storyboard. Here's what we're actually doing," and proceeded to demonstrate a completely different fight using props the coordinator hadn't even considered. Movements that weren't in any plan, a sequence that existed nowhere except in Jackie's imagination as he'd been exploring the space. The coordinator started to protest. They'd spent days planning the original sequence, had budgeted specific time for specific shots, but Jackie cut him off. "Trust me, we'll do it my way, and if it doesn't work after 100 takes, then we'll talk." They shot Jackie's improvised version. It took 73 takes over 2 days, and it became one of the most memorable fight scenes in the film, creative and surprising in ways the storyboard version never could have been. To understand Jackie's improvisational approach, you need to understand that he doesn't think about filmmaking the way most directors do. Traditional filmmaking is carefully planned. You write a script, create storyboards, plan each shot, then execute the plan as efficiently as possible. Deviations or problems to be minimized. The goal is to capture what was pre-visualized, to realize the plan. Jackie's approach is almost the opposite. He starts with loose ideas, a location, a general action concept, maybe some story beats, but the specific execution emerges through experimentation during filming. He discovers the scene by trying things, by playing with the space and props, by letting accidents and unexpected discoveries shape the final result. This method comes partly from his Peking opera training, where improvisation within structured forms was essential. Opera performers learned set pieces, specific fight sequences, acrobatic moves, character types, but live performance required adapting to circumstances, responding to other performers, adjusting to audience reaction. You had a framework but filled it in spontaneously. Jackie applies this to filmmaking. He has a framework, the story, the character, the general action concept, but the specific details emerge through improvisation during shooting. It also comes from Jackie's personality and creative process. He's not a writer or visualizer who can imagine complete sequences in his mind and then execute them. He's a physical thinker who understands through movement. Give Jackie a space and props, and he'll start moving, trying things, discovering what's possible through his body rather than through his mind. The creativity happens in the doing, not in the planning. This approach drives production teams insane, especially on Hollywood films with strict schedules and budgets. Western productions plan meticulously because time is money. Every day of shooting costs tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and staying on schedule requires knowing exactly what you're shooting when. Jackie's method makes scheduling impossible. You can't accurately budget time for a scene when Jackie might decide it needs 73 takes, or when he might throw out the planned sequence entirely and create something new on the spot. A typical Jackie Chan filming day looks chaotic to outsiders. The call sheet might say, "Scene 47, marketplace fight," with a scheduled 4 hours of shooting. Jackie arrives, looks at the location, starts trying things. He'll spend an hour just playing with props, seeing what's available, what's interesting. Then he'll start blocking rough movements, calling in his stunt team to try sequences. Something won't feel right, so he'll change it. They'll rehearse the new version. Still not right. Change it again. Eventually, after hours of experimentation, Jackie settles on an approach and they start shooting. But even then, he's adjusting between takes, trying variations, seeing what works better on camera. This means shooting ratios are astronomical. Where a typical film might shoot 3 or 4 takes per shot, Jackie routinely does 30, 50, 100 takes. Not because the stunt team is making mistakes, though sometimes they do, but because Jackie is refining, experimenting, trying to find the perfect version through iteration. He'll watch playback after every few takes, studying the footage, seeing what worked and what didn't, then adjusting. The stunt might be executed perfectly, but Jackie will want to try it from a different angle, with slightly different timing, with a prop used differently. His stunt team has adapted to this working method, understanding that plans are provisional and that the real work happens on set through experimentation. They've learned to prepare broadly rather than specifically, to be ready for anything rather than rehearsing one precise sequence. When Jackie says, "Let me try something," they know the schedule just went out the window, and the next several hours will be discovering what the scene actually is. The improvisation extends to camera work and editing. Jackie doesn't just improvise the action, he improvises how to capture it. He'll try a stunt from multiple angles and multiple shot sizes, experimenting to see what captures the movement best. Then in editing, he'll assemble the sequence from this footage, discovering the final version through the editing process rather than executing a pre-planned shot list. This method has major advantages. The action feels spontaneous and creative because it genuinely is. Jackie is discovering it as he goes, and that sense of discovery translates to the screen. The sequences use environments in unexpected ways because Jackie is exploring spaces rather than executing predetermined plans. And the final product often exceeds what could have been imagined in pre-production because improvisation allows for accidents and discoveries that planning can't anticipate. But there are also serious disadvantages. The method is inefficient and expensive. Scenes that could be shot in hours take days. Film and time are wasted on experiments that don't work. Crew members spend long hours waiting while Jackie experiments. Production costs skyrocket, and the lack of clear planning creates uncertainty that makes other departments' work difficult. How can costume design prepare if they don't know what stunts will require? How can location managers schedule if they don't know how long Jackie needs each space? The method also requires complete creative control. Jackie can only work this way because he's the director, star, and often producer. He has authority to throw out plans and experiment. On films where he's just an actor, working for other directors, this approach creates conflict. Hollywood directors expect actors to execute their vision, not improvise new approaches. When Jackie tries to suggest changes or experiment on set, it's seen as difficult behavior rather than creative contribution. Rush Hour's production exemplified this tension. Director Brett Ratner had planned sequences, storyboards, a schedule. Jackie would arrive and want to try different approaches to improvise action, to experiment with props and movements. Ratner had to balance respecting Jackie's expertise with maintaining production control. They compromised, giving Jackie some freedom to improvise while maintaining enough structure to stay on schedule. But it was uncomfortable for both sides. Ratner felt Jackie was undermining his authority. Jackie felt creatively constrained. The improvisational method also means Jackie's films rarely have tight scripts. Dialogue is minimal and often created on set. Story serves the action rather than action serving story. This works for Jackie's Hong Kong films where audiences expect action-focused narratives. But it creates problems in Hollywood where scripts are central, where studios want to approve final scripts before shooting begins, where writers and story are valued highly. Jackie's defenders argue that his method produces results that justify the inefficiency. His best action sequences, the marketplace fight in Police Story, the ladder fight in First Strike, the baby care sequence in Who Am I, are masterpieces of physical creativity that couldn't have been pre-planned. They emerge through improvisation, through Jackie discovering what was possible by trying things. You can't storyboard that kind of spontaneous creativity. His critics counter that plenty of great action has been created through careful planning, that storyboarding and pre-visualization allow for complex sequences that would be impossible to improvise. They point to modern action filmmakers who plan meticulously and create spectacular results, arguing that Jackie's method is outdated and wasteful. Both perspectives have validity. Jackie's improvisational approach works specifically for his style of action: physical, prop-based, acrobatic, comedic. It allows him to discover creative uses of environment and objects that planning might miss. But it's not the only way to create great action. And for many types of sequences, large-scale battles, complex car chases, effects-heavy scenes, careful planning is more effective than improvisation. The method has also evolved as Jackie aged. In his 20s and 30s, he could experiment endlessly because his body recovered quickly. He could do 100 takes of a dangerous stunt because he was physically resilient. Now in his 70s, he can't work that way anymore. His body doesn't recover from impacts, can't repeat dangerous movements indefinitely. So his recent films use more planning, more stunt doubles, more conventional approaches. The improvisational method required youth and physical resilience that Jackie no longer possesses. There's also a question about whether improvisation is truly spontaneous or is actually drawing on deep experience. Jackie has been creating action sequences for 50 years. When he improvises, he's pulling from a vast library of movements, techniques, and approaches he's developed over decades. Is that genuine improvisation, or is it applying learned patterns to new situations? The distinction matters because it affects whether his method can be taught or replicated by others. Young filmmakers who try to copy Jackie's improvisational approach often fail because they lack his foundation. They see Jackie throwing out storyboards and experimenting on set and think that's how to create great action. But Jackie can improvise effectively because he has 50 years of experience to draw on, because he knows instinctively what will work and what won't, because he's done similar things thousands of times. Without that foundation, improvisation produces chaos rather than creativity. The method also works specifically for Jackie because it matches his strengths and hides his weaknesses. Jackie is brilliant at physical problem-solving and movement creation, but weaker at narrative structure and dialogue. His improvisational approach allows him to focus on what he's good at, creating action, while minimizing what he's less skilled at. A different filmmaker with different strengths would need a different method. Looking at Jackie's career, his most successful and creative films generally used his improvisational method. Police Story, Project A, Drunken Master 2. These films feel alive and spontaneous because they genuinely are, created through exploration and experimentation. His less successful films often resulted from situations where he had less creative control, where studios or other directors imposed more structure and planning, constraining his improvisational instincts. But success came at a cost. The method meant long shooting schedules that kept Jackie away from family for months. It meant physical exhaustion from doing countless takes. It meant injuries from experiments that went wrong. It meant enormous pressure on his stunt team, who had to keep up with his demands for perfection through iteration. The creative results were extraordinary, but the human cost was significant. Jackie's improvisational filmmaking style is inseparable from who he is as an artist in person. It reflects his Peking opera training, his physical rather than intellectual approach to creativity, his perfectionism, his need for control, his inability to work within other structures. The method produces his best work, but also creates the problems and limitations that have shaped his career. It's brilliant and frustrating, effective and wasteful, inspiring and exhausting, just like Jackie himself. And it represents an approach to action filmmaking that is probably disappearing, unable to survive in modern production systems that demand efficiency and planning. Jackie's films exist as artifacts of a particular method, practiced by a particular person at a particular time. The improvisational creativity they captured can be appreciated and studied, but probably can't be replicated by others working in different circumstances with different constraints. That makes them both valuable and slightly sad. Brilliant examples of what's possible through a method that may not be possible much longer.